All right, welcome to the week in review. You are live. Well, I have my background choir. It's very important. And we are live from the basement at my house. For those of you who aren't in New Orleans, you were probably wondering, does he really have a basement in New Orleans and how does that work? Well, ask one of your friends from New Orleans about that. Because today we're going to focus on the news and what we're going to be doing this Sunday. So you might be asking yourself, is the church closed? I'm really glad you asked if the church was closed. And the answer is yes and no. Uh, and uh, and so whatever do you mean, Reverend Dwayne? Is the church closed? Well, the building's closed. As of I guess it was on Monday, uh, the bishop of our diocese, Bishop Thompson, issued a letter closing all of our churches this weekend and for the foreseeable future. And so, um, I think this is going to be really difficult. Uh, let's just acknowledge that. Um, I think, um, more so for some of us than for others. I think the longer you've been worshiping that space, it's probably going to be more difficult for you. But I think also, um, I think for many of us, it's our week of solace, right? And so we're able to go there and find many things. We find a place to kind of step away from everything in life, to find quiet, to find peace, and but then we also find community, right? I mean, that's a big part of our churches is actually, worship is a big deal, I think, in both of our places, and the community that is before and after it, where we check in with each other and do those sorts of things over coffee and pastries and cookies. And so um, I, like you, am going to miss our spaces. I'm going to miss physically gathering with you. And I at least thought that no matter what happened, that I would be well enough that I could go and lead services from one of the churches, even if you weren't there. And maybe eventually that could happen, but for at least the next 2 weeks, I'm quarantined at home. So obviously that's not going to happen. So, in that sense, the church is closed. But in another sense, it is not closed. It's not really closed because we're the church. Me, you, all of us, together we form the church. So as long as we continue to come together, we continue to be the church. So we're going to worship together online instead of in person, and and so we're going to do that at 10 a.m. There's going to be one service time. Steve and Jessica will join us and lead us in music. I am still working on how we also incorporate folks to do the readings. That may or may not happen for this weekend, but we'll see. But at the very least, we'll have music and we will do morning prayer as long as we use this format, because communion really is about community. It's about when we come together. And so when we come together, Christ is present among us, is what we believe. So, um, so we're gonna do that. The great news is not that this isn't a knock, but not that we're known as a church where people really dress up to come to church. So it's not too much work to just stay in your pajamas. You could worship Jesus in your pajamas. But if you want to dress up and put on your best church lady hat, I'm looking at you, Steve Prejean, uh, then then you could do that. You are welcome, Steve, to put your church lady hat on. So so we're going to send out an email soon along with this, I think, that'll have the details with how we're going to gather. Okay, I did that today. I'm going to continue to do it every Friday through Lent, Stations of the Cross. Um, Jessica, the parish administrator at Annunciation, so kindly went over last night and took pictures of all 14 of the stations. If you're not aware, these stations were made locally about 10 years ago by an artist up in Baton Rouge, and they're made from local materials, from what I understand. So anyway, it's beautiful local art, and we are using the Episcopal Church's Way of the Cross to go through this, and so it takes about 30 minutes, and it's also a time in which we offer prayers for everything that's happening right now. Okay. We are also going to work on ways to continue to do formation together. Eat, pray, study. So you'll just, instead of potluck, you're going to have to eat whatever you have at home. Maybe Bible study night is the night that you order takeout, or when prayer group gets together. And I know you're thinking like, "Ah, this is so new and this would be so different." But the reality is that the platform that we're going to use, Zoom, which you can access from a computer, a mobile device, or even just an old-fashioned telephone. So if people in our parish are not computer mobile device folks, they can use that. But it's really akin to the old party line. So ironically, our oldest members are really used to this, which is that you get on the phone and there could be 5 other people on the phone already. And so it's a way that we can still continue to gather and do Bible study, and we'll adapt. The truth is that we are likely looking at kind of a long-term change for us. So we just kind of have to plan for that. And I know for many of us that can bring anxiety and worry, but I just want to encourage you to accept that there's only so much we can do um, during times like this, and what we really have to do is adapt. And our predecessors did this as well. Um, During wars, we've had to adapt. So adaptation, I think a lot of you maybe aren't giving yourself enough credit for how much you've adapted already. So, but we're going to get together and still do things together in small groups. And maybe if you've been wanting to do that, it's an opportunity for us to do that together anew. Okay, community. We're still going to figure out coffee hour. I don't know that we'll do it this Sunday, but after this Sunday, what we're going to do is basically have, after we do worship time, we're going to have where you going to kind of shuffle it up each week, but you can pop into a Zoom call, and it's kind of like choosing to sit at a certain table at coffee hour. And we'll try to limit it to maybe like 6 people thereabout, and kind of I really want to encourage folks to do this. I know it's going to feel awkward at first, but trust me that it's going to be really worth it to kind of push through and learn new ways for us to continue to connect, because you all have been connecting for a really long time, some of you, and I think for all of us who are at these churches now, we like seeing each other, and we like connecting, and we like sharing stories and passing some time together with each other after church. So the difference is we don't usually have mimosas, but you're at home, so you could do like a mimosa or coffee or tea, and it'll be like a serve yourself coffee hour. So not this Sunday, but I think in a week we'll launch these. So to that end, also, I'm going to announce every so often some times ahead of time for when we'll do just like a hanging with the rector over your favorite beverage. And so I'll let you know when I'm going to be online. You can pop in. It's kind of like if you ever went to college and there were open office hours for the professor, and one person might be in there or 3 people might show up at the same time. I'm going to do this, and so be online maybe for like 2 hours, something like that at a particular time. You'll have a link that you can pop in. We just pop in, and hopefully we just share what's going on with our week, telling some stories. This is going to be much more relaxed. So, so this is all to say, which is that I'm realizing there may have been ways that we could have been using technology already to kind of help us with our busy lives, where sometimes it could be really hard when you've had to work till 7 o'clock at night, or you've got kids and you got to get them to bed by 7:30, 8 o'clock if they're younger, or maybe they're older and they're kind of can handle themselves more, but you really don't want to be away from home. That there could be other ways that we could still be sharing community get together and gathering together. So this is one of them. Obviously, until I'm not sick, I'll be having something like sweet tea. But once I'm not sick, I will celebrate with a time-honored gin martini. So, we're still looking to do our Lenten diaper drive. I know some of you, if you look, let's just put this out there. If you have lost your income, if you are afraid of losing your job, please do not feel pressure to do these things. But for those who continue to have their income coming in, when times like this happen, you really want to help even more so. So for those who've lost their income, we will eventually begin able to be able to identify ways in which that if you want to serve and help, that we'll kind of push those out. There's going to be a need to feed seniors in the community, for instance. Um, we're talking with one of our nonprofit partners about what that might look like. It's early, so I don't want to share any more than that, but there will be opportunities in particular for folks who are in the less vulnerable populations in order to kind of um, be able to give. But right now, we want to continue our Lenten diaper drive because you know what? Babies during the coronavirus pandemics, they don't stop pooping. So just putting it out there. So so for now, collect them at home, and we'll identify ways in which it can be dropped off at the church. But for now, just like make yourself a little pile at the door. When you go and buy 30 years worth of toilet paper, you could pick up like a thing of diapers at that point. And so they don't have to be Pampers. They can be any of the brands. But do think about the fact that, like we all know, like not all diapers are made the same. So just, like I don't know that this is the place. Make sure that you know that that diaper brand is a good brand, um, if you would, because the last thing you want is your baby getting a diaper rash, especially when you're all stuck at home. So, um, speaking of kind of being stuck at home, social services are still being provided by Broadmoor, and there's the email address. We'll also share a telephone number for you. Um, they are offering online services and by telephone, so you can reach out and talk to someone. They offer these services on a sliding scale. They're completely private, and so I really, friends, this is no time to be a personal hero. Please use social services. Um, reach out. Reach out to me. We could do one-on-one, either phone call or over video chat, but also there's these professional services with professional counseling. I have talked about this before. I have a counselor. I use counseling services. I'm a big believer in it. I think it's just the same as any type of medicine, which is that we are very blessed to live in a time in which we have discovered things about the body and about both our mental and physical well-being, and so and now there are people who are trained and gifted in these areas, and so let's let them do their job and let's take the help. It would be like if you were having trouble breathing, or like when I got the fever on Tuesday and was having trouble with coughing and everything. It would be like if I just decided not to go to the doctor. That's what it's like when you need mental services and you don't go to get them. It's the same as if you had cancer and you didn't go to an oncologist. So please, take the help. Talk to someone. Lastly, you may have missed the plethora of announcements and, the tsunami of the pandemic that we've had staff changes at Annunciation, which also affects Mount Olivet because obviously they assist me. So um, Jessica, Jackson, who has been my assistant, is moving over to become the parish administrator and bookkeeper for Annunciation, and um, and then Karen Pittman. Um, uh, I hired her like the week before we went into a complete pandemic crisis, which was great timing. She has a lot of experience. She is going to be our evangelism and discipleship coordinator. Um, Both of them are part time. Karen has been her and her husband and family have been worshiping Annunciation for about 6 months. When they lived in Little Rock, they just moved here last year. Karen was the evangelism and discipleship coordinator at a parish um, up there in Little Rock. And so she brings a lot of experience with this and already has been a great help in crafting messages and putting together the announcements and such. So if you have any community announcements or church announcements for either church, send them to community@annunciationepiscopal.com, community@annunciationepiscopal.com, and we'll get it out that way. Friends, I just want you to know I am praying for you, and I appreciate all the prayers for me. I am feeling a bit better today than I was yesterday. Yesterday was kind of my worst day physically, and so, but I can still feel it, so it's gonna be a slow go. But fortunately, we're all just hunkered down anyway, by and large. And so I'm grateful that I have space in my house where I can self-isolate and quarantine. Please take this seriously. Please take care of your health. Um, but also, isolating doesn't mean that you're trapped. So I've been sitting out on my front porch, even as sick as I am, and I get to wave to people. And actually, a neighbor is donating a red maple tree to Annunciation. I'll see what I can pick up from Mount Olivet next week. Who knows, So just conversations with the neighbors. So sit out on those front porches. The weather is doing nice, and chat. Put some sweet tea in your hand, or something stronger if that's your jam, and talk with folks, because that's what we still have. We can still talk from our porch to our sidewalks and across our streets, and we can still keep a safe distance and still have conversation and show love to one another. So God bless you, and I hope to see you on Sunday.